Moyane has lost his constitutional court bid to set aside the decision to establish the Nugent Commission of Inquiry. eNCA business reporter Heidi Giokos has been following this story for us and joins us now live for more on this. Heidi, what exactly is the Constitutional Court saying?
So the Constitutional Court is basically saying that Tom Moyane failed to show the matter was within exclusive jurisdiction to the Constitutional Court. So basically saying that, it had no grounds for direct access of the Constitutional Court and that there are other avenues that Tom Moyane can explore. Now, you must remember that Tom Moyane went to the highest court in the land, the Constitutional Court, to try and get the Constitutional Court to hear his application, which was that he argued the Nugent Commission, which was established by the President, and the disciplinary hearing headed by Advocate Zarbom, where it was not fair for it to be running at the same time. Then you had a situation where the interim report from the Nugent Commission recommended that Tom Moyane be fired as the SARS Commissioner. The President then listened to this recommendation, and Tom Moyane arguing that the Constitutional Court now needs to establish whether or not it was unfair for the Nugent Commission and the disciplinary hearing to be running at the same time, and it is unfair for the President to fire him given that the Constitutional Court had not given its word yet. And now you have a situation where the Constitutional Court is saying we are dismissing this application because we feel that it is not within exclusive jurisdiction of this Constitutional Court, and perhaps he will turn to other courts now.
Just to recap, the Constitutional Court this afternoon is not saying that Moyane's case is without merit. What they're basically saying is approach a lower court or seek another remedy, which then brings up the question of why he didn't go to a high court, for instance, or a labour court at the very beginning of this issue.
So that is the big question that we need to try and establish as to why Tom Moyane decided to go to the Constitutional Court first and give his application there. And basically, they obviously find their case extremely serious and they want it to be dealt with immediately. But now you have a situation where the Constitutional Court is saying, we're not saying that there's no merit in your application, but perhaps try other avenues given the fact that we find no exclusive jurisdiction for this matter at this given court. And we've seen various, supporting affidavits, or rather one supporting affidavit for Tom Moyane's application from former President Jacob Zuma. And the Constitutional Court also speaks about how, they've looked at the various affidavits and they still believe that this specific application should not be given to the Constitutional Court, and Tom Moyane should perhaps, look at other courts to hear whether or not that application will be granted or not.
What's interesting in all of this is that Tom Moyane and President Cyril Ramaphosa are at this point locked in multiple legal disputes, and one begins to wonder when it'll all be settled so that an institution like SARS, which says it's now in the process of rebuilding, can continue with that work without this dark cloud of an uncertain future of the Commissioner and how he is going to square up in the fight against President Ramaphosa.
So that is exactly it, because you have a situation where President Cyril Ramaphosa came into power and he decided that he's going to have this commission of inquiry into tax administration at SARS, and that's when the Nugent Commission was established. And there were various witnesses that came through and obviously spoke about Tom Moyane as the Commissioner and what was happening when he was at the Revenue Service. But you have a situation also where Tom Moyane is now trying to defend himself and say, actually, I would like to give my version of events and my version of what went down at SARS when I was the Commissioner. However, Tom Moyane was given an opportunity to defend himself at the Nugent Commission, even though it wasn't about him. It was more about what went down at SARS. And he said he would rather go to the courts and argue his application there. So Tom Moyane's next move could probably be the fact that he's going to go to other courts, probably the High Court, to try and figure out whether or not his application will be heard. But it basically is a tit-for-tat now with the President and Tom Moyane. Tom Moyane files an affidavit, the President responds, Tom Moyane gives the President a deadline, the President responds and says, I'm not changing my mind, I'm listening to the recommendations by the interim report from the Nugent Commission, and that is to remove you as the SARS Commissioner.
So no Christmas gifts are going to to be exchanged between Moyane and Ramaphosa this year. Heidi
Only
Giokos.
affidavits, I think.
Heidi Giokos giving us there a wrap of the latest there, the Constitutional Court saying that Tom Moyane's case, basically asking the Constitutional Court to deal with his issues with the Nugent Commission of Inquiry, should perhaps be dealt with by a lower court or through another remedy. We're going to continue